Welcome back to Legitimate Targets, everybody. I hope you're all having a great day. The world is cooling down. Things are seemingly getting a little bit back to normal after a wild last, 12, 14 days. And joining me to discuss some of this and what's been going on recently with Pakistan is Asif Durrani. He is a seasoned Pakistani diplomat who has served his country in a number of very interesting places. As ambassador to Iran and the UAE and a special representative for Afghanistan with a background in international studies and diplomacy. He's also the author of the book Turmoil. Mr. Durrani, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jackson, for having me.
Of course. So I've got to ask you, first of all, there was a very interesting development with my president, Mr. President Donald Trump. You had the Field Marshal of Pakistan, who's kind of the leader of the Pakistani military, chief of staff of the army. He met with President Trump. What did you think about this meeting? And do you have any insight into what the goals of this meeting was? And I know there was a lot of fanfare about the nomination of President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. What do you think about all this?
Well, thank you, Jackson. I think the Field Marshal Asif meeting with President Trump, it was at the latter's invitation that he joined, and he hosted a lunch for him also. So naturally, when they are meeting, and especially in the backdrop of recent India-Pakistan exchange, friendly exchanges, and then in the thick of this Israel and Iran war of 12 days. So I think it assumed importance. And details are not out. I'm not privy to the exact details, but I think Pakistan's role as a factor of stability in the region has been acknowledged. I'm basing this on the State Department's readout, and then other American analysts who have talked about it. So I think earlier, it perhaps because of our economic conditions, it was thought that Pakistan perhaps may not be a major player in the regional context. But I think when we had these exchanges, friendly exchanges with India, and then the response Pakistan gave, and the mature response Pakistan gave, so it has been duly acknowledged. So I think this is the background I can tell you. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the future is for Pakistan and India at this very moment? Because you had Prime Minister Modi come out and say that Operation Sindoor is not done yet. It's not over yet. It's kind of unclear as to what that means, my perspective. And also you have the suspension still, as I believe, of the Indus Waters Treaty. So how does Pakistan navigate these issues moving forward?
I think we are concerned, and as neighbors, if Mr. Modi thinks that by suspending Underwater Treaty, he would prosper, so then I think that is his mistake. That we are not going to allow. Our National Security Committee has already declared that if Pakistan's water is blocked, then that would be construed as an act of war. So, and so much, there's no ambiguity as far as Pakistan is concerned. And then India is shying away with the talks. They have linked everything with terrorism, and without allowing the due process to take its course. In the recent Pahalgam incident, which was unfortunate, and they immediately blamed Pakistan, and still their investigations are not complete. So it is something bizarre that has happened, and one would not expect this kind of an irresponsible attitude, or for that matter, an opportunist attitude, especially by addressing their home constituency, because he's having promises states elections in the coming October and November, and he in fact wanted to blame Pakistan for that. And there is a set pattern in the Indian politics. Whenever they want to garner votes, they create uh, an environment of anti-Pakistan all the time. While India is a non-issue in Pakistan, in our election campaigns, we even don't mention India. So somehow this is unfortunate, but and then they with this present dispensation, which is actually run by the RSS, an extremist Hindu organization behind it, and it's their policies that they have created an environment of uncertainty and fear, psychosis, especially among the minorities. And among the minorities, it's the Muslim who is bearing the brunt. This is unfortunate. For instance, in the Pahalgam incident, uh, soon after, within 10 minutes, they registered a report FIR against Pakistan, and over 2,000 innocent Kashmiris were arrested without any charge. Naturally, 2,000 would not have been involved in an incident. So this is the way they have persecuted innocent Kashmiris. And then if you broaden the canvas, then elsewhere in India, it's Muslims have been at the receiving end. Yes.
I want to ask you about Iran, considering, of course, that you were a Pakistani ambassador to Iran. I've heard some interesting things about Indian diplomats in Iran. I've heard that Indian diplomats, who oftentimes are intelligence, of course, like many, diplomats that are sent on missions, they work with intelligence agencies of their own countries. I've heard that they have free reign to roam anywhere in Iran, and this is a unique characteristic that they've been granted in Iran compared to any other country. Have you heard this at all? Is this a fact?
They have granted what? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
That Iran has granted India in the past, their diplomats, to roam freely, to be able to go wherever they want without having any sort of check-ins.
Yeah, I think Iran has had excellent relationship with India. But one thing which we had always raised with Iran and were pointing out, that India has established its consulate in Zahedan, which borders Pakistan. And the purpose of consulate is to give consular access and then facilitate trade if that is taking place. Along the border with Iran, there is no Indian trade which is taking place. There are no Indians in Zahedan which will be needing consular access, or for that matter, elsewhere in Iran and Balochistan. So yes, they have in fact misused their investment in building Chabahar port, which is part of the Iranian Balochistan, and they thought that they can bypass Pakistan by availing the Chabahar port. And but in the garb of doing business at Chabahar port, we arrested in 2016, early 2016, their serving naval officer, Yadav, and he then admitted his crimes inside Balochistan and in Karachi. He was involved in financing suicide bombers and also spreading financing for weapons and other facilities for the militants, Baloch militants, especially of the BLA, Baloch Liberation Army brand. That was but Mr. Yadav was running a jewelries business in Chabahar, and then he tried to, and he became so bold that he was coming to our Balochistan, and when he was arrested. So India's interference is blatant, and we have told India time and again that if they are also sitting in a glass house, and this kind of a policy is not good because there are over 1 dozen insurgencies right now in India. So, but Pakistan has not used that opportunity to stoke the fire, and it would be, it would not serve India's interests if they want to stoke fire in our Balochistan. Or they are also financing Tehreek Taliban Pakistan (TTP). They are financing through the Afghan proxies, uh, and we also have incontrovertible evidence about that also.
But to be even more specific, there's been reports of Indian intelligence working on behalf of Mossad, Israeli intelligence, in various countries in the past. Do you think that this may have been a threat in Iran over the past few weeks with all of the internal terror attacks that Iran faced? There's been rumors that Indian intelligence was working with Mossad. There's been some reports of Afghan migrants who were working with Mossad as collaborators. What do you think about this?
I will not be surprised because the kind of relationship India and Israel have, and in Israel has also provided defense equipment, sophisticated defense equipment to India. So yes, and then in recent genocide in Palestine, India was hand in glove with Israel, and in fact, hundreds and thousands of Indians were sent to Israel because there were shortages of labor in Israel, and when they threw out Palestinian laborers. So Indians filled the vacuum, filled the gap. So I'm not surprised. In fact, no one would be surprised when you look at the nature of relationship between India and Israel. Yes.
As for Iran's recent success in this, in this conflict, it was very stunning. They're going up against 2 nuclear superpowers, 4 if you include France and the UK, who provided air support for the Israelis. But do you think there's anything that Iran can learn at this moment in time from Pakistan, nuclear Pakistan, who works very close with the Chinese for, your Air Force, for your air defenses? Do you think there's anything they can learn right now from your country, from a military sense?
Well, the Pakistan-China relationship is not new. It is from the day one, and we stood by each other. And then Pakistan was actually the bridge between China and the United States, and the relationship between China and the United States prospered after that when we played the role of a bridge. And you can see now, even now, despite all competition and bad blood which we see between China and the US, both are the largest trading partners to each other, and it's prospering. In this setting, Iran can make its own sovereign decision. Iran is also having a very close relationship with China and Russia, and I think I can see uh, a, a better understanding emerging in the region uh, between Iran, Pakistan, China, Russia, Turkey, uh, and Central Asian states. So this is something we have to look for, and we have to watch out. Yes.
There's a lot of a lot more racist online than I imagined, because there's these people I saw all online this week who were, they're not even that political of people, but they started saying, talking about Iran. They said, we can't allow a Muslim country to get a nuclear bomb. We can't allow it. That'll be the end of the world. And they don't even know that Pakistan already has nuclear deterrence. What has nuclear deterrence and the ability to have this meant for Pakistan? And I guess what would you say to people who make these ludicrous claims that, like, oh, we can't allow X country to have a nuclear weapon? Why is it important for Pakistan to have this?
Jackson, nuclear weapons have no religion. And if you see the history of nuclear weapons, those were not used by the Muslims. They even did not know what the nuclear weapons are. And in our case, we had to respond to India's nuclear explosion in 1974. And India declared it as peaceful nuclear explosion. I still wonder how a nuclear explosion could be peaceful. However, they tried to assure us and to the world that this is peaceful nuclear explosion. But what happened? And had we believed in India's assurances, so we would have ended nowhere, because in 1998, India declared itself as a nuclear weapon state. And we watched and we waited for almost 2 weeks to see what is international community's response towards India. And it was almost mute response. So we were forced to reciprocate, and then we had to declare ourselves as nuclear weapon state. And we could very well see that Indian assurances were hollow, because their intentions were to go for the nuclear weapons. So it was the struggle between capability and intentions. So once India got the capability, it changed its intentions and declared itself as a nuclear weapon state, and we only responded to that. And I may add here also that our nuclear weapons are actually India specific. We responded to India's threat. We have no threat from elsewhere in the world, and so therefore, it's a deterrence we restored, we created, created by India, and then we responded. So here, if someone tries to read more about and name it as Islamic bomb or Islamic state having nuclear weapons, so Islamic world cannot be blamed for whatever chaos is happening here in this world in the past century or 2 centuries, and culminating into the use of nuclear weapons in Japan for the first time. So I hope that sanity would prevail, and then people would head towards nuclear disarmament. I'm afraid that nuclear disarmament machinery is paralyzed since mid 90s, and Pakistan cannot be blamed for that. It's the big powers. They haven't. On CTBT, they have not ratified the agreement. US has not ratified the agreement. Hence, it is cannot be implemented. So it is the big powers which will have to decide that what kind of an international order they want to have. So this much I would like to say.
No, it's a very good point. Very good point. It wasn't Pakistan who created these, who used these. It was a response, self-defense. And I think people need to understand that's the same with Iran if they decide to pursue this. Iran's not the first one in the region who had these. It was obviously Israel. Going back to the question though of India, why do you think it is that India refuses to pursue a policy of win-win cooperation and good faith relations with its neighbors? Because right now, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan. You have this tri-state alliance, framework that is manifested, and it really just seems like India should be pursuing this sort of good relationship, good business. It'd make them a lot of money, presumably. But instead, they're seemingly choosing the path of most resistance with all of these nations. Why do you think that is?
This is unfortunate because India has been trying since long to be hegemon of the region, and many countries of the region don't accept that claim, which India tries to be quote unquote net security provider. So, and then recent India-Pakistan spat also manifested this fact that Pakistan is not going to be bowed down or so therefore we responded to India. And then India, for instance, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, is paralyzed since 2016 because of the intransigent attitude of India, and therefore there is no summit taking place of this forum since 2016. That used to provide an opportunity to the heads of state and government to meet, and then if there were certain differences, they could address those. This has happened in the past also during SAARC summits, and many problems were resolved, so which were bilateral. So India, in this case, in the regional context, has emerged as a spoiler, and then India has also tried to create a parallel. For instance, BIMSTEC. So in BIMSTEC, all SAARC members are there except for Pakistan. So they wanted to, bypass Pakistan. It is up to them. They what kind of relationship they want to have. You have seen that in the recent India-Pakistan spat, none of the immediate neighbors, rather no one in the world except for Israel, supported what India did, or what claims India in fact staked as far as terrorism was concerned. So no one bought India's claim of terrorism without offering any evidence. On the contrary, Pakistan was transparent. Pakistan said, okay, if this has happened, it's an unfortunate incident. Let's have a neutral inquiry. Of course, and then it was very much appreciated at the world level, and it was acknowledged also. But India could not produce any evidence, and then India does not accept a neutral inquiry also. So we cannot allow India the role of a judge, a jury, and executioner. So it's quite obvious, yes.
And one last question for you. Given that you were the special representative of Pakistan for Afghanistan, I question your thoughts on the recent breakthroughs that Pakistan's been making with Afghanistan, restoring ties. Obviously, we've seen China make these big breakthroughs. Recently, we've seen Russia delist the Taliban as a terrorist organization within Russia, and now they are, have former Defense Minister Shoigu, who's been making these trips to Afghanistan to meet with the Taliban. What is Pakistan's current state of affairs with Afghanistan, and where do you hope that it goes?
Pakistan, Afghanistan have a unique history. We are like cousins, and if you see, I'm sure you know the Pashtun history. So when they are not fighting the outsiders, they fight among themselves. So that is the cousin rivalry, which is called Turbur Wali in Pashto. So that is a part of our history. That is part of our culture. Almost 17 tribes are living on the border on both sides, Afghanistan and Pakistan. That is also a cause sometimes for friction between the two countries. But this latest improvement is because our red line was TTP, which was using Afghanistan as a base and then launching attacks on Pakistan border areas. Hopefully, with these recent exchanges between Afghanistan and Pakistan, there will be much improvement as far as controlling the TTP activities are concerned. So we are quite we are encouraged with the assurances given by the Afghan interim government. The business has picked up this because whenever there's trouble on the border, the border used to be closed, but now a deliberate attempt has been made not to close the border and not to create any problems for the smooth flow of goods and services. So that is being ensured, and that's a positive development which is taking place. And then, yes, the trilateral meeting between Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan foreign ministry that gave boost to the bilateral relationship. As a result, we have upgraded our relationship to the ambassador level, although recognition is still not there. And then Afghanistan has been invited to join the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which Afghanistan has agreed. So I'm sure this will give boost to not only bilateral trade but also to transit trade. So these are positives which have emerged, and hopefully there'll be further movement in future. Yeah.
Well, very good. I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on. Mr. Asif Durrani, thank you so much for joining me here today. We're going to have your Twitter linked in the video description. Where can people purchase your book, Turmoil?
Well, it is available in Pakistan, and I will send you. I'll tweet you the address. That's what I can do. Yes.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for joining me today. I got to finish it off. Pakistan Zindabad. I hope to visit Pakistan very soon. I know I will.
You are most
Thank
welcome.
you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.